I have never heard with the Patriots since Bill got here, the personnel director making game day roster decisions. That to me has never been in the purview of Scott Pioli, Thomas Dimitroff, Nick Caserio, Matt Groh, Elliot Wolf, you name it. It's just those guys help with the draft in the offseason. They help with pro personnel and free agency and waiver wire pickups and things of that nature. But the Sunday roster, I thought there wasn't much collaboration. That was the coaches. You know, who do they want for that specific game plan? And that's up to Bill and his coaches. So that's the part that stood out to me. Matt Groh is making game day roster decisions. Well, that's a new one. But then I sort of missed the forest from the trees, and Mazz had it right, I think. I mean, you know what? I'm still interested in that. I think there's an element to that. I mean, do you think that's going on? I think Matt Groh is helping to make roster decisions? Or Matt Groh really had an influence in Malik Cunningham dressing and playing in that game?
Yeah, to me, it comes down to, anyway, keep going.
I mean,
it's all connected. But
so,
go ahead.
I mean, it's possible, and it's a scary possibility.
Mm-hmm. But do you ever hear about something like that league-wide? I don't remember anything like that.
Well, maybe some teams are structured that way. I just don't think it's structured that way here. It never has been.
Yeah.
You know.
But typically the player personnel guy you only hear about or from in the offseason.
Well, here especially.
Right.
Here, you don't hear that Scott Pioli helped, Bill and Scott got together and said this player should be the third quarterback. To me, so that was new, and that's still something. But maybe the more relevant piece is that Bill O'Brien was distancing himself from such a colossally stupid idea and dysfunctional roster that he wanted to make it clear. Because he was asked a series. This was 2 days ago now. No, I'm sorry, yesterday. This was yesterday. He was asked a series of questions about Malik Cunningham and the quarterback depth chart and Bailey Zappi. And maybe he just got to the point where he wanted to make it clear. Because we're all trying to understand what the hell they were doing. And how could it be so dysfunctional that you had no backup quarterback?
Don't look at me.
And what he was really doing was saying, listen, that's Bill, that's Matt, that's not me.
I think it's as stupid as you people do. That's what that is.
So that was Mazz's point yesterday, and I think that's something I'd like to circle back to today, shall we?
Yeah, again, I think it was don't look at me. I mean, I just gotta, in this case, I had to play with what they gave me. So that was that. We tried a couple of plays with Malik Cunningham, who isn't even close to being ready to play quarterback. We've been working him out at receiver, but they wanted to use him as a quarterback, so I had to integrate him in as quarterback. Don't look at me. And again, it gets to the whole level of dysfunction of what's going on internally there when you start to really explore it, because Bill Belichick didn't want Bill O'Brien. Wasn't his first choice. Matt Patricia and Joe Judge were his first choice. So Robert Kraft then brings in Bill O'Brien. And the Grow piece to me is also interesting because, I don't know, is Bill O'Brien doing Robert's bidding there or ownership's bidding by saying we're trying to pump up Grow, so I'm going to include Grow here too, but at the same time he kind of distances himself from it?
Or is it the other thing?
Well, right, like all the above. I mean, the whole thing is confusing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because you got all these allegiances that are going against one another in there now, and that's what it feels like. It feels like all these little factions.
I don't find it confusing. I just, don't know the exact answer or where to draw the line, but there's a squiggly line in there. But again, the piece of, that was a game to save their season. I know a lot of us had written them off. A lot of you had written them off before that game, and for all intents and purposes, the season might have ended in Dallas or New Orleans the next week, but ostensibly at 1-4, your season's not over. It's a beatable opponent, so that's a really, really important game for you. And for all intents and purposes, you go into it without a backup quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
That is so dysfunctional. It's not even funny. It's so Cleveland Brownie. It's not even funny. And this is, I'm working on a big picture take for you. I'll probably give it to you tomorrow. But you ask someone who was a Cleveland Browns fan in the 90s, and they look at this and go, I've seen this before. Entire seasons, entire football teams built around no quarterback, no offensive coordinator, completely abandoning that position and that coaching spot Bill Belichick did not have an offensive coordinator in Cleveland for the first 3 years. Maybe 2, but I think 3. No listed offensive coordinator. And the quarterback thing, I don't need to tell you. Testaverde came in late and sort of, but if it were up to Bill, he'd still have Eric Zaire. So this is so Cleveland Brownie in the 90s, it's not even funny. You go into an important game and you don't really have a backup quarterback, and your starter blows. Is one of the worst guys in the league right now. After a season in which you tried to go without an offensive coordinator. That's exactly what Bill tried to do 30 years ago. It's his vision. And just think of it. And so Bedard did a good job with this when I brought this up yesterday in the second hour of the program. So I just want to replay it because I thought he was good on this. He was incredulous. The big boy was incredulous, as he should be. Give me number 1, Jimmy.
So, first of all, what I gleaned from that, from just the situation itself, is that, and I agree with it, Bailey Zappi is so bad that they were like, if Mac Jones gets hurt or it's a blowout, we'd rather have Malik Cunningham with like 6 plays running around. Like, it'll be more effective than Bailey Zappi. That's the first thing.
I mean, that's what they think.
Yes, that's what they think. But what I wanted to say was, this is it. To me, this is a window and an indictment on Belichick. This is how little he thinks of the quarterback position. I mean, this is emblematic of why Bill is in this position. That he enters a freaking NFL game with the New England Patriots without a backup quarterback. So if Mac Jones, behind a terrible offensive line, okay?
Believe me, I'm with you on this.
He easily could have gotten hurt in the first quarter against Max Crosby. Max Crosby could have decapitated him in the first quarter, and the Patriots would have run out there with Malik Cunningham. Like, is he George Costanza trying to get fired, going around the parking lot with the World Series trophy behind his car?
Or are you tanking? It's something a tanking team would do.
But anyways, he would rather... He's just so warped in his thinking about football that he would rather have Malik Cunningham, who might give him some snaps on their worst special teams in the league as a gunner. He would rather have Michael Wenu, who can't even walk, as the emergency guard out there on the roster instead of having a freaking backup quarterback active on game day in week 6. I mean, what the hell are we doing here?
He's right.
Yes, he is right.
And there's 2 parts to it. He's warped in his thinking about football. That's a big statement. You know, to go from genius to the guy's warped. But he is. He's warped. He's warped. He thinks the quarterback is just like another position.
He does.
And it's not like the central position.
Well,
and
it's
so
become more important than ever.
It's become more important than ever to him. It's just another position. And one that's even sort of de-emphasized. A game you got to have. You have no backup quarterback, and your starter blows. And, oh, by the way, Greg said he agrees with it. I think it's dead wrong. I think Greg's wrong. I think you're all wrong. If you think Malik Cunningham running around out there with 6 plays is more effective or gives him a better chance than Bailey Zappi, that's freaking stupid. That's taking it too far on Zappi. I mean, I'm talking about the package they gave Malik Cunningham,
right.
that freaking thing.
Right.
Like, that's what you were going to do all game? Give me a break. That's not better than Zappi. And so if, Bill believes that, or he's being punitive towards Zappi in some way, or you believe that, that's stupid. Malik Cunningham with a full week of practice and a full game plan, I mean, maybe. I'll give you that. I mean, Zappi is obviously taking a step back. But it's twofold. You think that gave you a better chance, Malik Cunningham, than Bailey Zappi? And 2, the point is, you were fine going in that game without a backup quarterback, just like you were fine going into last season without an offensive coordinator. There's only one coach and one program and one team in the modern-day National Football League that does that. And that's this one.
Yep, absolutely. Again, and he's been so empowered over the years, he feels like he can do anything no matter how stupid it is.
Big boy just got madder as he went, though. It was good. Number 2, he hates quarterbacks.
I forgot about the Wenham thing. It's a good point.
He basically needed a wheelchair to get out on the sideline.
I was going through the play sheet the other day. I didn't even think about him. I was thinking about that guy, Jay Farms.
Jeremiah Farms.
Jeremiah was a bullfrog. Yeah, he played 2 snaps. I mean, if Mac Jones got hurt in the first quarter and they got blown out or what have you, if I was Kraft, I would have fired him on the plane ride home. I mean, like, seriously, who in the history of NFL football has anybody ever gone to a game with a backup quarterback who's not a quarterback? Bill O'Brien was asked about him during the course of the week about, taking snaps at quarterback, and he basically laughed.
No, yeah, he said he's been good at receiver.
He was like, oh, yeah.
And he's gotten some work on teams.
Yeah.
So, what coach in the history of the game goes into a game without a backup quarterback?
Bill Belichick.
He probably did it in Cleveland. He went seasons without offensive coordinators. And, immediately had a thing with Kozar, was fine with Eric Zaire, fell into Testaverde, but didn't do anything behind it. It's the Cleveland thing all over. And maybe he's, I went back and I started watching the Cleveland Football Life thing.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of that was we were on the right track. We were right. And if given time, if Modell didn't move the team, we were going to be proven right. Because look at what happened subsequently, not just to the Ravens that the Browns became, but look at what happened to us in New England, or Nick Saban in Alabama, or look at where all of our tree went at the time that they did it. Dimitroff was a GM and Pioli was a GM. And the whole point of this thing was that we knew what we were doing. We were on the right track. And as proof, look at the success we're all having now around the league. And I think Bill, in his inner reaches, is trying to reprove the Cleveland thing without even maybe knowing it. But it's no, we had that right. It's not all about the quarterback. It's not all about that thing. And I was on the right. I had the right idea then, and I'm going right back to it because this is what it looks like.
No, and this part of it is so him. It's never him. He's never wrong. He's never at fault.
Well, I don't get what that has to do with why are you saying that?
Because in this particular case, he was wrong again. He was wrong in Cleveland, and he's wrong here.
So I see. Yes,
he always finds a way to mask the reality, which
Right.
is the reality that is the problem with him.
Right. Rewriting history in Cleveland. Right.
Yes. He always neglects to settle on the most obvious answer.
I know because it never occurred to him that he was wrong.
No, right. That is so him. It is. It's so him. That wasn't me. I mean, we'll always blame someone else. It's never him. He still doesn't think he was guilty for Spygate.
It's still 3 days later, so maybe it's all sinking in like big picture. But it's just what they did at quarterback in that game is mind-blowing.
Yes.
Bedard 3.
I mean, the quarterback thing, I just can't get by. I blacked out.
Blacked out.
I mean, it's so absurd. This is where we fall into with this program. I mean, I don't know how people aren't making more of this. I mean, part of me was I wanted to see what happened. If Mac Jones got hurt and then they lost, what was going to happen? I mean, that's how I don't know what to think of it. I mean, I do think that's how little they think of Bailey Zappi.
Okay, obviously. But you can't go into a game without a backup quarterback that you need. I mean,
it's either colossally stupid or a giant FU.
Or F you to Zappi, F you to Kraft and Mac Jones.
Yeah.
This is what you left me with. I mean, I don't know. An F you to you right. You can never rule out spite with Bill. He's trying to prove some stinking point.
It's an FU to somebody, just not himself.
Oh my God. But it is. When you think about that, that's where it's gotten to. That's where this thing has gone. And it's only that is Belichick. And I don't even know if that's the game passing him by. I think it's when he was left to his own devices in Cleveland, he did kind of the same thing. He did.